Welcome back, folks. Wow, what a great day. That last panel was quite engaging. And we are not done yet. This is our final panel for Future of Television 2020. I just want to thank everybody. It's been, I know these are challenging times, everyone working virtually, but the level of engagement has just been really impressive. I'm excited to see so many people taking part and commenting in the chat and posting questions and attending the networking that we're doing virtually. It's really a great sign. And thanks to all of our sponsors and media partners that helped to make the event possible. All right, so wrapping our Brands and Creators Day is our panel on influencer marketing. Before I introduce our panelists, let me remind you, please introduce yourselves, all you attendees in the chat. You're welcome to drop in links and say hello, mention who you are. And then if you have questions specifically for the panel, please put them in the Q&A area so it's easy for our moderators to, see the questions in one place. Okay, as I introduce you by name, please turn on your video and unmute. Chris Bauer, SVP of Brand Partnerships at Fullscreen. Welcome, Chris.
Hi there, thank you.
Phil Ranta, Chief Operating Officer at Wormhole Labs. Phil.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on. Jade Sherman, great last name, partner at A3 Artist Agency. Jade, welcome.
Hi, guys.
Good to see you. Arif Zahir, content creator, influencer, and new voice of Cleveland on Family Guy. Well, welcome, Arif.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And our fearless moderator, Max Willens, senior reporter of Digiday. Max, take it away.
Thanks, Ned. Thanks for the introduction. Welcome, guys. I usually like to start these things with a rundown of who's here and what they do, but Ned took care of that job for me. So I try to have these panels not work in the way that panels sometimes do, where the moderator asks a question and everybody dutifully answers one at a time. But I will start with kind of a down the line question. Maybe you could just elaborate a little bit more for attendees on what you do specifically at your respective organizations, and also plug the last influencer campaign that you worked on. So maybe we'll start with in the order that we were introduced. So Chris, why don't you go first?
Yes, thanks, Max. Thanks, Ned. Great to be here. I lead the sales and brand partnerships team here at Fullscreen, a division of Warner Media, essentially helping our clients understand how to strategically and kind of consultatively work with influencers, essentially giving them the information and knowledge that can deliver a really successful influencer marketing campaign. Myself and my team work on dozens. So I would say the most recent was probably a Best Buy campaign.
Okay, fantastic. Phil, your turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Phil Ranta. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Wormhole Labs. So Wormhole Labs is a technology where we've built a live simulation of the real world that people can generate on their own and then navigate as an avatar to meet, chat, shop, and play. We're still in soft launch right now. So the last influencer marketing campaign I worked on hasn't launched yet, so I can't talk about it. But I was previously the head of gaming creators over at Facebook Gaming, and we did a really cool COVID relief thing with Nintendo and Mario Tennis and Serena and Venus Williams. And that was the last thing I worked on there. So that's it.
Nice. Thank you, Phil. Jade, what about you?
Hey guys, I am a partner at A3 Artist Agency. We are a talent agency. I oversee the digital side, the digital department, where we represent content creators and we help execute campaigns for traditional celebrities as well. My roster primarily is content creators on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, anything and everywhere where people are creating content. And we do so many campaigns, and I was trying to think, that was like the hardest question. But we recently did a year-long ambassador program with Tinder for our TikTok creators house that he put together called the Triller Compound. So that's that.
I love that. And Arif.
Yes, I'm Arif Zahir. As is on YouTube, I am an actor recently signed by CAA. I just got a gig at Family Guy. I voice Cleveland now, which is a huge achievement I'm so proud of. And I would say, I do gaming. So the most recent campaign I've done was for Ubisoft for the new Assassin's Creed game.
Fantastic. So I guess maybe just to sort of get things going, I feel like I, as a reporter and editor, have spent my entire second half of the year, beginning my interviews with people by asking, how things are going. I mean, I think after a pretty rocky several weeks in the springtime, people are starting to feel maybe cautiously optimistic about how things are going again. There's a lot of kind of uncertainty still sort of sitting on the horizon, but it's nowhere near as sort of gray as things might have looked certainly at the end of March or maybe April. But I thought maybe, each kind of pocket of media operates differently. So maybe just for sort of further level setting purposes, we could talk a little bit more about how the year's gone. I mean, Jade, when we had kind of an introductory call, it sounds like, broadly speaking, this has been a good year for you guys. So like, could you give us a brief download on like what the space has been like for your clients?
Yeah, so obviously when COVID restrictions started in the second or third week of March, everyone was kind of panicked. And so everything was at a standstill and no one knew what was going to go on. All of the campaigns that we had were on hold. But then 2 weeks later, everything kind of just started going back to normal. And we started to see a huge uptick where a lot of brands that needed to get messaging out quickly and couldn't hire production companies were using our influencers in more and more different opportunities. And so there were a lot of quick turnarounds. Like, for example, Lysols were flying off the shelf, but they wanted to show that not only are they making a lot of money, which is great during this pandemic, but they also want to show how they're giving back and and to get that messaging out, they needed to work with some of our clients. And so there were a lot of brands that were trying to activate on cause marketing really quickly. And then in general, our company has really put digital content creators at the front and center. So to watch all of the different departments, Broadway specifically, our Broadway department, their talent can't do anything. Broadway shut down. So to watch all of the different departments kind of lean on our space and figure out adaptive and unique ways to get out there and find work has been incredible. And so we have, Broadway clients that are doing master classes and they're putting on performances virtually. And so we've seen so much creativity at this time. And then in the digital space, the work hasn't slowed down. And it's honestly, Q4 has been the craziest and busiest that I think we've had to date. So it was a slow start in March, but everything kind of picked up and things are moving.
Interesting. And just kind of a similar version of the same question, Chris. I mean, like when you, Jade sort of alluded to this in her initial response there, but like, talk to me a little bit about sort of like the kinds of stuff that people, sort of turn to you and your roster for. I mean, was it on some level, I'm sure for some verticals, they were quickly able to sort of say, okay, we can go back to maybe not business as usual, but something like it. But there were also sort of new opportunities as well. Like how did this sort of like ask change in the early part of the year and have the nature of those asks evolved?
Yeah, I think this year has been the year of the pivot. So many plans that we had in place at the beginning of the year had to change and morph and evolve very quickly, and then evolve and morph again and again and again. So over the course of probably that end of March to early June, July time period, it was a constant shift of planning and re-strategizing depending upon what was going on in the world. Not only were we dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, Black Lives Matter was a significant component to how our influencers, our creators, and our clients were promoting products during that period of time. So it was a constant evolution. I think the types of things that our clients have been looking for in the last 6 months has evolved. I think there's elements where they still need to sell product and they still look to influencers to influence their audiences to try and experiment and engage with different types of products. But then there's also elements like, as Jade was mentioning, from an awareness perspective. More and more of our clients need to see that their awareness numbers are going up or their perception numbers are changing. And influencers are a fantastic way of doing that. You immediately have a massive audience of people that believe and trust in what the influencers are saying. And when you've built that great relationship between an influencer and a brand, that resonates across to the audience side. So awareness has been a big uptick in need from many of our clients.
Interesting. Arif, I'm curious about how the last several months have gone for you as someone who works directly as a creator. I mean, one of the things that was sort of defining a lot of the uneasiness that Jade and Chris alluded to is that a lot of brands kind of had to stop in their tracks and go, hang on, wait, what is our messaging? What is our place in all of this? And some of it was practical, right? Like maybe if you had a television commercial that involved people frolicking on the beach, it was maybe not a good time to put that out into the world. And so there was an element of that, but there was also a lot of them kind of banging their heads together going, what am I supposed to say right now? And I'm curious if you had a similar kind of question enter your mind. Like, how did you sort of think about that as offers came through the door? Did you have to think maybe more intently about like, is this something that I can jump in on or chime in on? Like, how did that dimension of this play out for you?
Yeah, in the sense of basically the with how the world was going in the pandemic, or just converting.
Yeah, really. I mean, this has been a really wild year, you know, like no matter how you look at it, and just how did that sort of shape your thinking as a creator, as an artist?
Well, yeah, initially, you know, when it came to the brand deals and stuff like that, I think things slowed down a bit because of budgets, and you know, they weren't sure, you know, where they were going to go, how things were going to be for them in these coming months. And like Jade alluded to, is it got back to normal faster than a lot of us had assumed it would. And when it came to me in my voice speaking to my followers and subscribers, I never really came out and, you know, I would record a video and maybe at the end of it, I'd say, stay safe and this pandemic and things like that. And I would like, you know, I do Omegle videos too. So I played to it a little bit with, you know, when it first happened, I was just, you know, when the pandemic first happened, I was like, luckily I'm a gamer and it's not going to be a big, you know, I know a lot of creators vlog and go out and do skits and stuff. And I was like, I'm blessed to have a situation where I can just plug my PlayStation in and just get gameplay, you know? So at first it was pretty daunting, but I felt I adapted pretty quickly. And it wasn't I felt like I've been more creative in this time, honestly, so.
Yeah, I feel like being in the gaming vertical is probably great. I mean, that's a category that was quickly like, wait a minute, we've got a bunch of people who can't leave their houses. This is great.
Right.
So that was probably pretty excellent. I want to talk more about gaming and that kind of vertical more moving forward, but I want to touch on the kind of growth numbers that Jade talked about and sort of I guess it wasn't implicit, but I want to ask about, you know, the role that the different platforms played in that healthy growth. I mean, obviously all of you guys have, you know, strong presences on what are now, I guess, in an influencer world called legacy platforms like YouTube. But, you know, TikTok has been kind of like the platform of the year, I guess, sort of unofficially. And I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about like the role that TikTok played in your businesses. This I'll treat as kind of an around the horn question. I know maybe Phil, this won't apply to you directly, but I'd love your thoughts regardless. But Jade, why don't we start with you? What role did TikTok play for you guys this year?
So we were really on top of TikTok last year. I'd say, you know, July, August, September, we were looking at talent, obviously, musically.
Were you making money there last year? I'm sorry to interrupt, or just like talent hunting?
We were, honestly, Musically was what predated TikTok. And so we had talent on Musically, and the deals on Musically, they weren't anything to write home about, but there was a lot of great talent on TikTok, people that were really funny, very similar in the vein of Vine, where Vine obviously figured out a way to bring brands in and then collapse. But it was definitely a platform we were keeping an eye on. And then when everyone couldn't leave the house during Corona, it exploded. Like everyone was on TikTok, everyone's grandmother was on TikTok. And so we were signing TikTok talent, but in that time, everyone blew up, and people who had 1,000 followers hit 1 million followers in 2 weeks. And so we just noticed so much attention, so much influence was on the platform. And we were signing TikTok talent, and we have been on the daily. And so I think for us, the most important thing when we're looking at platforms is just the engagement level. Is it there? Because the truth of the matter, talent is talent. They are so creative, whether it's a short form video, it's a long form video, whether they're streaming, whether they're live. If you're talented, you're talented. The next step is finding an engaged audience, and if that platform has it. And so for us, you know, we're hoping TikTok continues to grow. I saw that they're going to hit 1 billion followers, subscribers, users by the end of the year, or some stat 2021. So it's a platform that we are very excited about and very focused on. But in all of our businesses and with all of our talent, we always say diversify. So make sure that you're posting content on all of the different platforms. But TikTok's definitely having a moment, and we're keeping an eye.
And Chris, what are you seeing there? I mean, like, are marketers like a shiny new thing? And TikTok was mighty shiny. Maybe not super new to what Jade was saying, but like I feel like that is a platform that brands have been kind of obsessing over a little bit. Like, tell me a little bit more about sort of what they're looking for there. Is it just, you know, a great kind of awareness builder and a chance to sort of look young and cool? Or, I mean, the thing that I think is so interesting is that how quickly and kind of seamlessly TikTok has sort of become a place where people feel comfortable recommending products to buy. I feel like everything that my wife has purchased in the last 5 months is because of the video she saw on TikTok, and you know, and it's all cool stuff, but it's crazy. Like, that's how quickly it's turned into like a channel for product awareness. So what are the brands sort of talking about when they think about TikTok?
You know, I think the brands were really trepidatious at the beginning. You know, I think it took a long time. You know, Jade brought up Musical.ly. We were talking to Musical.ly back in 2019. And back then, brands were still taking a bit of a wait and see. And then, as Jade mentioned, it has exploded. You know, I think that what brands are looking for, and I think what consumers and users love about the platform is just the level of creativity. I mean, I sat there in many late nights during quarantine watching endless creativity. I mean, I feel like the bounds of creativity are just tremendous there. It's such a unique platform. So I think what brands are looking for and have been experimenting and testing with is how do they push that creativity? How do they further let the creators explore that creativity in partnership with a brand? And look, there's certain brands that have jumped in full force into it. There are still quite a few of our brands that are still taking a little bit of a wait and see. And I think the banning of TikTok, whether that's still happening or not, was something to be concerned about. I think there was a number of brands that just didn't want to be a part of it and still are just still a little hands off. So, you know, I think I applaud all those creators that are on it. Platform is a great one for expressing that creativity. And I hope that it gets to a point where, you know, brands are jumping in as aggressively as the creators have.
Arif, I want to ask you about TikTok, because I feel like YouTube is sort of your home, correctly? Like, you're on other platforms, but I feel like your biggest audience is on YouTube. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you see something like TikTok, just like, you know, erupting like a volcano, like, what's your sort of thinking there? Do you sort of suddenly, I don't know, do what Chris does and just stay up all night looking at it and trying to figure out like what's my in there? Or do you think like, you know, I've got a lane, I'm comfortable in it, I'm going to wait and see? Like, how do you sort of think about all this? Because I'm sure that, you know, your managers and everyone are telling you got to be everywhere, but
right,
you're just one dude. So how do you think about that?
I would say initially, and almost even till now, I am very comfortable with YouTube, and new lanes are daunting to me sometimes, and trying to figure out how to navigate it and not, you know, as unique as I feel like I am on YouTube, going to another platform, you still have to switch it up. I don't just want to re-upload my videos to TikTok too. I want to bring a new vibe to that. So I have a couple of videos on there. I plan to, I always tell myself, I'll do it one day, but then it's been a year now. I only have like 6 videos up. But for instance, like I did, like, the moment Mike Henry stepped down for Cleveland, I actually just went on TikTok and made you know, they have like this little, like you said, the creativity is crazy. You can put like a picture behind you. And I just took a screenshot of Mike Henry and I did Cleveland. And I said, I would love to put myself in there, right? And that video got 2 million views in like a day. And I was like, wow. And then Family Guy said they saw that as well. So it's a great, you know, it worked out. But in the end, I feel like the idea of coming up with new ideas is so kind of scary for me in a way. I don't want it to diminish my, you know, how people perceive my channel and stuff for myself. And I always have these crazy ideas for TikTok videos. I just never end up getting to it. I think part of it is that new territory is kind of scary.
Yeah, for sure. And Phil, I'd love to get your thoughts on this too, because you have, in some ways, kind of looked at different platforms from as many different angles as possible. So not only from the like, you know, kind of agency side, but also from, you know, literally working inside a platform, most recently with Facebook. So like, how do you consider TikTok's year? And what can you tell us about how incensed and jealous Facebook was about TikTok?
Well, no comment in terms of how incensed and jealous, but you know, Facebook had Lasso, so they had kind of a similar style play that's since been shut down, and now of course Reels on the Instagram side is still there, so still definitely playing in the super short form game. But I mean, we look at all platforms in terms of what is this telling us about what the next coming generation of creators and fans are into? And a lot of times it's what the previous generation liked, but then a heightened version of that, right? Like if you look at when Instagram started, anyone can be a photographer and anyone can look great because you take a picture, you put a filter on it, and you look amazing, right? And that's what helped that blow up. Likewise, on TikTok, I like to say anyone can be a comedian because the hashtags give you a context or a song or a certain dance that you do, and then anyone can play along. It's kind of like when At Midnight used to do the hashtag wars on Twitter. Anyone can be funny because they give you like a context that's repeatable, and then you go out and you look awesome. And I think that it also feeds into the idea of people want to be able to surf really quickly and intuitively. And TikTok, I feel like I kind of enjoy, like I enjoy Pinterest, right? I do a lot of that when I'm on it. And I feel like on platforms like YouTube and even Facebook and even to some extent Instagram now, it starts to feel a little slow once you've been in TikTok a lot, right? Because it's so satisfying so quickly. People are learning the new way of narratives where it's like you get what the video is going to be from either the title or the first half second, and then you're bolted right into it. And then you have the joke, and then you have the topper, or you already know what the kind of dance it's going to be. So as we're especially creating platforms right now, we're considering, well, if we want Gen Z or the unnamed generation below Gen Z right now to take notice, how do we take all of these lessons from TikTok about, you know, gamification and about making you feel like a celebrity and having an awesome algorithm that helps surface awesome content, not just the biggest content. And then how do we package that through our lens? So I think TikTok's been a great learning experience this year.
That's really interesting. So I want to maybe take a point that I sort of tucked into my original kind of wind up with TikTok and use it as a way to discuss sort of like what we sort of see moving forward in terms of brand needs from influencer marketing as a channel. So I think of TikTok as being this kind of like, you know, it's had this meteoric rise, but it seems pretty clear that it's going to be a place where you can solve for not just awareness building, but also frankly, you know, product recommendation and maybe also like, you know, solving for bottom funnel KPIs as well. And I want to maybe ask kind of a wider question about like, you know, the sort of role in marketing that influencer marketing is playing and how that's going to shift. I guess maybe we'll start with you, Chris. Like, do you sort of see maybe in this year or looking into next, a shift in the sort of KPIs that you're being asked to solve for when it comes to influencer marketing? Like, is it more sort of oriented around bottom funnel, or are they still really interested in awareness? Like, how do you sort of see that unfolding?
You know, it's a mix of both. I think every brand is different. Every brand has its own complexities, its own challenges. When you look at the retail category versus the CPG category, completely different at times. And oftentimes, you know, I think the expectation was that influencers were great, I should say, for lower funnel KPIs, but more and more as we have been exploring larger scale relationships with our influencers and brand partnerships, leaning more into brand ambassadorships where you can build a truly unique and longer term relationship with those influencers and thus their audience is growing significantly. We've seen that a lot, particularly because of the pandemic this year. And we're seeing that brands are leaning more into those types of brand ambassador relationships that are more longer lasting, They get more out of it. The audience members don't feel like it's a complete one-off random brand sponsorship that a creator has secured. It resonates better. And when you think about delivering on that authentic message and pulling your audience together and ensuring that there's trust between the influencer, their audience, and the brand, having that brand ambassador is key. So brand awareness, ultimately, brand awareness and lower funnel from a brand ambassadorship is something that we're really focused on right now and into 2021.
You mentioned that there's sort of more interest on the brand side. Can you give us an example maybe of something that you guys worked on this year that sort of is emblematic of that, whether it's, you know, a client case study or something?
Yeah, sure. We've worked with over the course of the last say 9 months now, 10 months with GNC. You know, they're working through a shift to a lot of e-commerce marketing. And so what we did is
brick and mortar activity these days, huh?
And
yeah, I mean, there's definitely some shifts from brick and mortar from brick and mortar to e-commerce, and to do that, they leveraged a suite of influencers that we helped them identify, that we have leveraged over the course of the entire year, really doing different pulse points of campaigns, whether they're new products that are coming out, having those influencers promote those products, having them, especially during the pandemic, leveraging those influencers to do at-home live workouts. So live streaming workouts in their living room with their kids running around in many instances. And that resonated really, really well with the audience of the influencers, but also the audience of GNC's channels.
And
so leveraging that over the long term has been beneficial. Yeah, Jade?
I don't know if you know this, but one of my clients is on that campaign with you guys.
Probably.
Andrew East. And
Yep.
I think I want to compliment Fullscreen because I think this is a really good example of how people have adapted during the virus. This whole thing was supposed to be an in-person live event in Palm Springs. And obviously that didn't happen. And the way Fullscreen was able to switch it up and take advantage of what was in front of them. And to Chris's point, everyone was doing in-home workouts. And I think that's just a really good example of not only the brands being creative, but the agencies behind them, knowing what the strengths of the talent are, working with the talent directly, and crafting those messages that really works. And I would say there has been so much more, I would say, collaboration with talent included, which makes for better content.
Yeah, thank you, Jade. I agree. The flexibility that the creators have had during the pandemic, when things had to shift and contracts needed to be modified, or the types of content that we were going to be producing or shooting or putting on the channels, that modified, it pivoted 85 times during a 6-month period of time. So, you know, leveraging those influencers to deliver on that creative message in different ways, whether it was going to be an amazing trip to Palm Springs to shoot a ton of content, or, you know, doing at-home workouts in their backyard. It really, the creativity and the leveraging the influencers to really help spread that message differently was a huge benefit for GNC and others.
Arif, I'm curious what you think about all of this, because I feel like, to contextualize, or the way I've always thought of influencer marketing is that it's this sort of space that certainly like 5-6 years ago, when it first sort of started to enter the kind of marketing mainstream, it was definitely something that a lot of people, you know, tried. They said, let's do this once, let's see if it works. And then when some brands found that it did work for them, they started spending more and more time and money on it. But it's still a thing that I think is, to what Chris was saying, largely thought of as a one-off like campaign type thing. And I'm curious if you know, if you sort of, you know, prefer things that way, or is that something that you sort of like, would you rather be in a position where you're more of a brand ambassador doing kind of always on stuff for, I guess, you know, game studios, for example, or do you sort of like the opportunity to just kind of like try something, you know, apply your, you know, genius to it and then kind of walk away? Like, how do you sort of think about those things?
Right. I'm pretty split down the middle, you know, for certain things like ad integrations, some things like that they're usually one-offs, you know, whether it be a Raid Shadow Legends or VPN servers or something like that. But like when it comes to game companies, it's great to build it's great to build a relationship either way. But specifically, if you're doing gaming for Ubisoft, you get to play the games early, you get to, you know, make a video early, you get to have your fans see things that other creators didn't see or what they won't see for about a year or two. So it's always fun to have that and build a rapport with the creators and the publishers and stuff like that, and get flown out to different parts of this. Well, you know, I can't do it now, but you know what I mean? Get flown out to different parts of America. I've seen parts that I've never even gone to, but doing these gaming events allow me to do some stuff like that. So I love personally having a relationship with, you know, game companies when it comes to brand deals, for sure.
Fantastic. And Phil, I just to round this topic off, I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts on sort of like what you've heard from, I guess, the brand side, as far as like how they think about those sorts of relationships. I mean, I know that there was a period many years ago where there was a lot of unfamiliarity and uncertainty about this kind of class of creator and whether they can be trusted to sort of, you know, be the face or a face of a brand. And, you know, maybe they weren't sure about the long-term viability of it. But as more and more of what everybody does kind of moves onto the internet, I imagine A, that they're more comfortable with that, but B, they probably are thinking more about what they can bring to the table. Like, how do you sort of see the brand relationship with influencers as a kind of creative class evolving?
Yeah, I mean, brands have been forced to get really scrappy, and I mean, everybody's had to pivot. And now brands are starting to accept things that before they thought were unacceptable, just because it's the way that the world moved and there's a new normal created. So a platform like ours, which is bleeding edge and looks at kind of content and commerce in a new way, I don't think in a time other than COVID, it would get as much, let's say, attention as it's getting right now. But people are trying to figure out, say, well, do I need my brick and mortar store anymore? Like, all of them are doing so terribly. Are we moving everything online? They say, well, maybe you can if there's some sort of platform that could bring attention to the actual physical space, bring influencers in there, have people visit virtually, have people shop instead of just buy. Like, they're starting to ask kind of these big philosophical questions. And it's also just been a wonderful time in terms of innovation in general. There's been a lot of platforms that have popped up that have, I don't think would have had the time to pop up if, first of all, software engineers wouldn't have lost their jobs, or app developers wouldn't have lost their jobs, and got the chance to go back to their computers for a little while and think, what's the next evolution going to look like? So I think that once all of the coronavirus stuff is in our rearview mirror, you're going to see a lot of huge innovations in influencer marketing. And I think a lot of it's going to center around real-time creation and true presence. I think shoppable video, especially what's happening in China with Singles Day, live video and shopping, we're all going to be our own QVC or HSN, for those of you who are old enough to remember those channels. And I think that it's going to make the concept of we-commerce greater, right? The idea that, like, a friend of mine is shopping, I want to know the friend of mine is shopping and what they're buying, and then I want to be able to participate in that experience and then also buy it. And I think influencer marketing is going to change drastically over the next 5 years because all of that is accelerated.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into what'll probably be one of the last topics that we touch on, and that's well, A, the future, and B, the kind of QVC-ification of everything. I'll add as a kind of just reminder to the attendees here that we did earmark several minutes at the end for your audience questions. We got one really good one already, and you're encouraged to dump them in so we can address them after everybody's done answering my annoying questions. But I want to get thoughts on you know, what's happening now and how much we think that that's likely to persist. So, you know, this has been in every respect, I think, an extremely unusual year, and one that I hope in many respects is, you know, remains unusual and not like what is in store for all of us. But there's also lots of ways in which, in conversations I have with other with marketers, with CROs, they tell me that they think a lot of what they had to get used to this year is going to persist, you know, whether it's, you know, working under shorter planning cycles, or, you know, maybe focusing even more on kind of bottom funnel metrics, whatever it happens to be. So I wonder, maybe we could start again with you, Chris, like whether you think that the adaptations you guys have been forced to make this year are going to persist into 2021 and beyond, and you know, how that shapes your thinking about your business.
Yeah, I do think it will continue into 2021. I think, clients have gotten comfortable with remote production. They've gotten more comfortable with releasing some of the reins and letting creators create for a brand. I think agencies like ours have gotten more sophisticated in the planning that's needed to help clients and influencers do all of that. So I think from a production standpoint and from a quality of content perspective, that's definitely going to persist. I think we're definitely going to see more and more of that. Sure, clients and production companies are able to go in out and produce now. It's getting more inefficient to do a lot of that. It's very expensive to produce many of these shoots with all of the COVID requirements and other things that you need, not to mention, ensuring that someone's healthy and safe on that shoot. So I do think elements like that from a production standpoint will definitely continue. I think clients are going to continue to need brand awareness and perception shifts in thinking about. I think the consumer is so tuned in to what a brand stands for and what the brand values, that if that brand is not expressing some of those values and supporting of various causes or of you name it, audience members and consumers are going to pull back, and they're going to find the brand and they're going to find the influencers that are supportive of the things that they're most passionate about and that they're most interested in and care about. So I think that the brand awareness and brand perception need is going to continue just as much as that lower funnel sales.
Okay. Jade, what about you? What do you see on that front? Like, how much of what you guys have gotten used to this year will persist next year?
I think Chris really nailed it. So I'll add to what he said. I think from this generation, the Gen Z and younger and towards the millennials, there is so much of the decision making of when to buy a product or to support a brand. It is about what they stand for. And I think definitely during BLM and a lot of the protests, people wanted to know, where do those brands stand? And our clients worked with a lot of those brands. For example, Pinterest came down and had some things go down earlier in the year, and they said, we hear you, we want to change things, and we want to work with our community to make effective changes. And so I think that brands are listening, and they are understanding that the Gen Z demo believes in sustainability, they believe in climate change, they believe in all of these important things, and that if you are not on the right side, they're not going to be interested in purchasing. So what we're going to continue to see is, like I said, a lot of marketing based off of messaging. And it's, the basic products, like your average cleaning product, like there's not much that is exciting when you want to create a fun video. It's like, it's a scrub. Like, what do you want me to do with it? It's, what do you stand for? And how do we tie that messaging and what you're doing for the community and what you're doing for the environment, what you're doing for the world into your product? And I think that we've seen our clients love that, especially if they support it. And I think that that's the most important part with the younger generation. I feel like, when you get to the boomer generation, the boomers are like, we just want good products, we want it cheap, we want it effective, and like, let's move on and let's not bring politics into everything. The younger generation is really, has a really strong voice and cares really deeply.
Makes a lot of sense. This was fantastic, you guys. I think we'll move over to audience questions. So again, we've gotten 2 excellent ones already. I'm happy to squeeze in a third if someone wants to be bold. But this is kind of a creative question, which is something that I think about all the time, and we didn't touch on enough maybe in this conversation. But this is a question that Simon Applebaum asks, and I guess I'll start by asking it of Arif. And the question Simon asks is, do influencers generally see TV in some manner as the ultimate home for their creations? And I think that this is like, a question that was definitely on the front of my mind when I first started, contemplating this. And certainly when YouTube first started kind of promoting its own stable of stars, there was this big question of, when the Lily Singhs of the world would start making their way onto television. So I guess, yeah, I mean, like, Arif, you are actually now going to be on television. But, you know, like, is the dream that you're just going, that you'll parlay all of this into a, you know, a show on linear, a linear channel of some kind?
I think initially it was, but over the years, I grew to just love the support that you get from the internet and from your fans and the interactivity that there is there. And I think the kids of today, or Gen Z, YouTube or TikTok, that is their television. So I think it's more important for, I don't know, millennial boomer type of thing to be on a you know, growing up, you just want to be on TV, you know, and that was one of my biggest dreams as an actor first, creator later. But I think I want to evenly just have all facets, you know, just be active on any platform that's popular at the moment, that I can interact with my fans and give them the content that they want. In addition, as to, you know, following my dream and, you know, being on the television as well, or the big screen, or any, you know what I mean? Just all of it.
And
Yeah, I think.
I will say it's funny because we have a lot of clients that are super creative and their channels are incredible on YouTube. And then, you know, HGTV comes and they want to work with them, but they have no creative control. And now they're subject to whatever HGTV wants to do. And they cannot release control. So there are things that we're passing on because you know, having that control and that kind of drive to be authentic for their audience and make sure that it's a very real experience, it's leading to passing on those opportunities because it just doesn't make sense. And so, you know, to Arif's point, like, the creators who started in 2008 and 2009 and were putting self-tapes on YouTube or creating their own content so that someone in casting would see them. I mean, those people are either, you know, doing that right now, acting and found those jobs, or are now probably no longer posting. And this new crop of talent, this is their TV. YouTube and TikTok, like, this is the exciting part. But what we've seen is now that they're looking at content creation as a business, they're looking as more entrepreneurs. So they're looking at product lines, they're looking at being in store or e-commerce, or obviously the merch lines have been insanely successful. But they're just looking at it as in a very different light. And I don't think TV is the ultimate goal for majority.
I think it's also unfair to look at our creators monolithically, right? Like, Issa Rae, I was working with Fullscreen way back in the early days. She was always made for TV. She was great, right? And she was great on YouTube, but also if she got her own TV show, it would be nominated for Emmys. I think everybody would have said, yes, absolutely. She's that kind of person, right? Whereas there's a lot of people who are just made for TikTok, and I'm not convinced that they would do well in a 22-minute format, right? And that's got to just be okay. That some people were made to be digital stars, some people were made to be TV stars, and maybe some people can transition, but it's a very different skill set and it's a very different dream, you know?
Yeah, I think that's well said. So we have about 2 minutes left, and I want to thank everybody for participating. Because this is the end of the programming, I guess, today, and because 2020 is mercifully almost over, I want to end by asking for some predictions for 2021. This will be a one last, like, round the horn question. So one prediction from each of you. The wilder and more irresponsible, the better. Chris, you go first.
Wow. Predictions from an influencer marketing perspective. You know, I think it's, and this is not wild, I think it's continued expansion and growth and explosion. I think you know, we've heard, you know, the death of influencer marketing. That's BS. I'm sorry, it's not the death of influencer marketing. Influencer marketing continues to evolve and change and just continues to grow. So I think it's just continued growth.
Okay.
Not
Arif.
wild at all. Sorry, Max.
Arif, what about you? Give me something wild.
Wild. For all my gaming fans out there, it's only going to get bigger. The PlayStation, Xbox just came out, and I think it's going to be, I think 2021 is going to be a crazy year for everything in terms of gaming.
All right. Jade, what about you?
I don't even know what's crazy anymore, because I feel like we all talked like a year ago, we would say Quibi, we would most likely all on this panel be like, Quibi's not going to be here. And that would have been wild, and then we would all be proven right. Maybe traditional ad budgets, digital ad budgets take over the traditional ad budget spend. I feel like that's probably likely, and I don't think that's that wild. Maybe in the next 2 years.
Okay. It's wild-ish. Phil, give me something crazy. Come on, everyone else is playing it so safe. Tell me about.
I'll go crazy. I'll go crazy. I think a lot more influencer marketing campaigns are going to look like Mr. Beast videos and look a hell of a lot less like shout outs. I think that it's very noisy out in the market and everybody recognizes it. And they want to do a video with the world's biggest blank or the world's craziest blank or the mega collab with 50 large influencers. You're going to see a lot more people taking big swings, and you're going to see a lot of misses, and you're going to see a lot of people that connect. And reach out to the smart people on this panel if you want the ones that connect.
I like that. It's a great note to end on. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Arif. Thank you, Jade. Thank you, Phil. And thank you, Ned.
Thank you, Max. Very well done. Thank you for navigating this panel so well and ending our event in such a powerful way. Chris, Phil, Jade, Arif, Max, thank you very much. Everybody, thank you for your 3 days of engagement with us at Future of Television. We did not expect a year ago that we would be doing this event as a virtual event after 19 years of doing it in New York City in a conference hall. And I'm just thrilled that it went off as well as it did. And we've had so many great speakers and so many great guests. And of course, thank you to our sponsors who helped to make it possible. Timzar, my lovely wife, and Laura, who put it all together, deserve a big round of applause. And everybody, we're not necessarily done. If you want to join us at the networking event, that kicks off in 13 minutes. And I think everyone has that link. And we'll be going into some breakouts and continuing some of the discussion that's gone on this panel. So thank you, everybody. Have a good one. Take care.
Have a good one.